Okay, recording. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is your full moon report for October 1st. The sun is in Libra. The moon will be in Aries. I think the moon is actually in Aries right now as I'm making this report. We're going to go over the major trends for the rest of this lunar cycle. So that'll be the last half or the third and fourth quarter. Talk about the major trends because there's some serious stuff happening. This full moon, there is a lot of focus on symbolism, the amount of energy that we put into symbols and how absolutely powerful they are in terms of cohesiveness within a group. And we focus our attention on these symbols and they have real attraction, they have real impact on cohesion of groups and shared experiences, and talking about how absolutely how strong they are the more people engage with them in a communal or a group situation. And this full moon is going to give us an opportunity to see these symbols for what they are and maybe make some adjustments and changes. The moon is going to be conjunct Chiron as well. So there's a lot of stuff around deep wound of the self. So we're going to talk about the full moon and self, these symbols. There is a lot of Venus energy right now. She is going to cross fixed star Regulus, which is in Leo. It's the last degree of Leo, right? This is where the big solar eclipse of 2017 was at. And so she's going to pass this point and then move into Virgo the next day. So we do have a sun in Libra. It is the sign that, one of the signs that Venus is, that rules. And so, and for her to go also into an earth sign as well, because she also rules Taurus, so she represents the earth element as well. There's a lot of strong Venus energy, so she's really going to help kind of guide us through this process and really getting us down to the basics and kind of humble us a little, but show us where the value is of really just getting down to brass tacks and doing the actual work. And what does that even mean? Because that's really what this is about, is we're still in the process of preparing ourselves as a vessel of total commitment and dedication in service to not only ourselves through our spiritual work, whatever that means, but also when we step out and engage with the community or the collective. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen in the next 2 weeks. We're going to have Pluto stationing direct. And then Mars is going to come around and square Pluto, much like Mars is right now squaring Saturn, who's recently gone direct. And so with Mars retrograde, through also a big player in a lot of this process, because there's just a lot of major aspects happening with Mars. There's just so much frustration, and there's so much of a need to turn that potent desire to create more in on ourselves. If you remember the new moon on the 17th of September, it was in Virgo. And so we are shaping ourselves. We're dedicating ourselves to being the best version of ourselves so that we can show up in full service and dedication. And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg died the day after the new moon. And that is a perfect example of a person who dedicated their life and career to the service of the, in this case, the country that she was a citizen of and lived in. And so the flag at half-mast was completely appropriate when she passed away. And that is the aspect of each of us that we set intentions or meant to set intentions around at the new moon. So with the full moon, we're going to see all of the stuff that's usually hidden underneath in the subconscious realms, in the realm of the shadow, right? This places, the corners that we don't often look in our own psyche and mind. That's going to be fully reflected by a Libra sun who is, there's a lot of focus on balance and fairness and justice when it comes to our role within the collective and how we show up with others. It's a strong resonance, and our personal ability and our desire, right? Also with the moon, like our drive, our intuition, there's a lot of potential to create, and we're going to see what symbols and how important these symbols are. We're going to go into it. I'm just going to go into it because symbolism is a big theme here. What symbols mean, how they are related to the cohesion of a group, a community, generations. It can be ancestral. This is a big part of this full moon, how incredibly powerful. And we get a chance to see what symbols could maybe take on new meanings for us in order to move forward and to actually create a better version of ourselves. So that's going to be a big theme. We're also on like an energetic probation period. And I say that because the next new moon on the 16th is going to be like almost a mutation. Like the codes from Arcturus that are going to come in are very, very strong with the new moon. And we're talking about the dual aspects of each of us with the sun and the moon. And so to get this connection with Arcturus, 24 degrees, it's with a 3-degree orb of Arcturus. It's like growing an extra wing or growing an extra appendage. It's almost like a mutation. It's going to be really vast. And so this lunar period right now that the full moon is part of is getting our vessel like completely just mastered and reformulated. And that's what we've been doing over this time. Now, if you've been, externalizing this whole experience, then yeah, you're really focused on that. And that's all you're going to see is like all these reflections of where you need to work. And people always say, you got to do the work, work on yourself and do the healing and what are your wounds. But what does that actually mean? So for many of us, if you've been working on your traumas for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, multiple decades, you do know what that means. But it does mean it's time to go and face the things that hurt you, right? And it also means addressing the behaviors that come out of your stress response or your trauma reaction to situations that hurt you. And so when we get triggered by trauma, there's these neural pathways in the brain that connect us to a certain feeling response when exposed to certain stimulation, right? And so doing the work means undoing those patterns, deprogramming those patterns, and creating new neural pathways that allow you to live in joy and freedom and, not fear based all the time, so that your immune system is healthy, that your parasympathetic nervous system is operating, and that you are just leading a healthy and well life and not living in fear all the time. So once this lunar cycle ends and that Arcturian, it's going to be big on the 16th, it's going to come in really big. We have to be like ready for it. And Mercury is really a guide right now into the dark spaces because Mercury is in Scorpio. It's going to go retrograde in Scorpio during this moon cycle, the last 2 weeks. Along with the fact that Pluto is going to station direct, there's going to be the cleanup crew is about to be called in and activated. That is for sure. And then you have Mars that's going to square Pluto. There is a lot of Uranian energy because Mercury in Scorpio is going to oppose Uranus in Taurus. Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, we'll talk about her, is going to conjunct with Uranus. And Venus is going to trine Uranus. So a lot of like this higher octave of the mind, the collective awakening spirit experience is going to be highlighted a lot too. Other big things that are happening just in this 2 weeks, the sun is going to square Jupiter. And then Jupiter sextile Neptune. This is the third one in this year, I believe. So this is very, this is Jupiter, does not do well in Capricorn, doesn't really want to take any responsibility, just wants to, expand on the ideas, right? The big picture stuff. I'm the management, I don't really deal with the details. Well, in Capricorn, this is a moment where Jupiter gets to kind of step into a role ahead of himself. And Neptune, his brother, in his home side of Pisces, is really going to support Jupiter stepping up in a leadership position, maybe when we're not really ready. So there is this really beautiful opportunity here as well. The sun, and then from here, the sun is going to make all kinds of connections. This is the last quarter, and is going to square Pluto. It's going to oppose Mars retrograde, but it's also going to trine the North Node. And so it's preparing us for the eventual aspect, which is the sun going into Scorpio. And then we start really dealing with the actual feelings and the deep feelings. And our attention is really focused on life and death and the death of the old and the power structures, right? Because that's all that Scorpio energy. And Mercury goes retrograde in Scorpio. So there's just a lot going on. There's a lot. And right now with this full moon, we are going to really address those wounds of self. We're going to, there's going to be some real there's going to need to be a real adjustment between this personal desire to want to act on things and to, be self-assertive in our growth, and Mercury, which is showing us through the realm of the mind and the information that's coming through and the way we perceive it and conceptualize it, about how strong the symbols are in a collective experience, right? Especially in the concept of ritual, because Scorpio is a real ritually based sign. And symbolism, it's just a big theme right now, because that is how we actually change our reality. We understand the symbolism, and we get to assign it new meanings in order to create from it. But we have to actually see the symbols and what they mean to us. We have to actually acknowledge that. And Chiron, we're going to get a chance to see actually where our wounds come from. With the moon, especially, moon's going to, you can see it right here. The moon crosses Chiron and then immediately opposes the sun, okay? And the sun is at a position in Libra where it is a canoe on calm waters after going through the rapids, right? This moment that we're going to be able to be like, take a breath and kind of not in chaos, and have the stability and the poise to be able to collect ourselves and to use that as a way to emotionally connect to, well, what are my wounds and what stuff out there symbolically is triggering those wounds. I think that we are in a really unique moment. And of course, Mars retrograde is encouraging it to turn the lens, that warrior energy within, which is frustrating if you just want to keep acting out of it. And that's certainly one way that Mars retrograde can function, which is frustration and acting out. But if we are using this energy consciously, then we are turning it within, which is really hard right now, because so much is trying to draw our attention out into the world and what's going on outside of us. So we really need to work on what's going on inside of us. And this full moon is going to show us how some of these deeply entrenched symbols, they are so deep that they create the reality around us. We're going to see it, and we're going to have a chance, a clear mind. If we can get a clear mind, if we can be that like clear pond or lake after coming through the rapids, if we can be that still water in our mind and in our awareness, we will be able to see very clearly what those symbols mean to us and how they trigger us, and then the chance to let that go and give symbols some new meanings and take our freedom back for our own conception of reality. Right now, the stronger it is, it's stronger when more than one person engage with these symbols. This is why ritual is so important, and symbolism is so important, because you have people giving their energy to these symbols collectively. And they sometimes are so deep and they're so strong and they have been around for so long that people don't even realize that they are participating in this process, this ritual with these symbols, okay? We're going to see it. We're going to see it really clearly, and we're going to get a chance, if we're working with our wounds, if we are actually doing the work. The thing is, like, it's hard to know what that means unless you're already doing it. So again, it means taking responsibility for situations in your life that you're starting to see patterns for, taking responsibility how you end up treating other people as a result of being triggered, right? Like, we all have shitty things that we do, usually the people that we're closest to, because we're acting out. This whole full moon is going to show us all of that and show us that it's symbolic, and how many symbols around us are part of that, and taking that back. That's a big part of this, because once the new moon on the 16th rolls around, if we haven't done this and we are bringing in those codes, like we're not going to. It's not going to happen. It's going to bounce off and we'll go wherever we need to go. But this is getting us ready for the big download, right? That huge Arcturian opening that's going to, it's really going to be like a mutation, like a massive evolutionary shift in a very short amount of time. And we got to get ready for that. And there's lots of opportunities as well. So this is the full moon chart, as you see here. The moon is going to be conjunct Chiron. So we're going to feel it, and we're going to have a chance to really work with it. There's a probationary period type of energy right now, especially between Chiron and Mars specifically. It's like we know we're just getting into the idea that we can actually create things from within, right? That we have the potency and the potential within us already to create. That's the seed. The seed holds it all. So there's a probationary period, especially with these two things retrograde, which means that they're both gonna come back over these same points when they go direct. And so we're working with it. There's a lot of protection and there's a lot of support and guidance, but we have to focus within. We can't keep externalizing it because it's just gonna drive us insane. It really is. And I mean, nobody's going to be happy come 11. Not everybody will be happy come 11/3/11. I think it's gonna wrap up by the 12th. That's my sense of it, that it's going to be drawn out a little bit, but it will be resolved by almost mid-month, 12th to 13th of November. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a really important moment, and don't think that you're not, triggered, and that we're not all each going through this process individually, because I assure you that we are, because that's how this works. And then when we collectively see something that we can put all of our energy into symbolically that represents where we want to go, then it's on, right? Then we have real power. But that's being dispersed constantly by this consistent pitting one side against the other. It's a real trap, right? Okay, so this is the first, which is tomorrow, Thursday. So we'll just go through it a day at a time when there are major. So right after that, Venus goes into Virgo. Here we go. And then she crosses Regulus. I'm going to link an article, a blog post and an article about Regulus, fixed star Regulus. That's at the last degree of Leo, moving into Virgo. Actually, Regulus moved into 0 degrees Virgo like 2011. So it's kind of still hanging around that last degree of Leo into Virgo. But this star is the royal star. It is the king, right? The lion, and there's a lot of pride and leadership there. And then as soon as you move into Virgo, you go from this solar masculine energy of expression, and then it's time, where do you go from there? You go to the common person, the humble hermit, right? The person, and it's very feminine. Virgo is a feminine earth sign ruled by Mercury, interestingly enough, because Mercury is the hermaphrodite. So it's really the resonance is feminine because we are working with mutable earth with Virgo, but it's really about doing the actual work on ourselves internally to create as a result of duality, but from a very masterful and very meticulous way of doing things on the inside. We're mastering this energy. We're mastering our own energy with Virgo. So Venus is going to move into here, and she's gotten really charged with her royal birthright here, and then is ready. And I think that she's really going to pull us into a place. If we let her, she's going to show us the real value, right? The real value of like actually doing the work, right? This means having a daily practice. This means whatever that means: meditation, Reiki, yoga, prayer, free writing, exercise. Oh my gosh, that's going to be getting into your actual body, but a routine, right? And things that you're not going to do too, like you're not, in terms of substances, certain types of food, consuming certain types of media, all that stuff. She's going to show a lot of value, and we're going to feel it. And this is going to be, we're really going to start getting down into it. Okay. So that's right after the full moon. She goes right into it. So, I mean, we're really kind of catapulting into this period of addressing our wounds and actually starting to make real change in our energy field and not being triggered by everything outside of us all the time. So we get to the 4th, and you can see here that the at this point, so the moon's moving through Taurus. This will be much more in the dailies. Of course, it'll be much more focused on the moon. So by the time we get to the 4th, this is, look, where Pluto stations direct. Now, like I said, the cleanup crew is coming through now. So I hope that you came through and designated, bring out your dead, right? But it's more like bring out your the dead symbols that are just triggering you to be angry and fearful and anxious and hateful and all of the things. We know what they are. Don't act like that we don't all have them. That's the thing. We need to be honest about that with ourselves too. And if we're not honest with ourselves about it, then we can't do any of this work. So by this point, though, Pluto stations direct, and now the cleanup crew is actually coming in. And if you haven't put your garbage out yet, then be prepared to sit on it. Or for Pluto to come in and be like, no, I'm taking it. Either way, put your shit out on the curb, basically. So from here, so Pluto stations direct. You can see that the sextile to Jupiter now from Neptune is starting to get stronger. And we are going to have Mercury is still moving direct in Scorpio as of now, and is going to start coming into its opposition to Uranus. Okay, so Mercury and Uranus, they kind of share the same thing, except Mercury is the personalized experience of the consciousness, and Uranus is the next grade up, the higher octane, so to speak. And it's the collective, right? Mercury is like the process of it all happening, and Uranus is the experience of it, of going through the Stargate collectively, all of us, right? And Mercury is the actual functioning of all of the glands and your whole mental system, your thinking, all of it. So Mercury is guiding us through these darker spaces right now, and is specifically darker spaces about power dynamics between people. Scorpio is about communion. It is about ritual. It is about sexual drive. It is about money that you owe, right? Debt. It is about shared resources. And we are going into these spaces in the realm of the mind and the information that's coming out and being communicated to us as well. And this opposition to Uranus is in Taurus, so it's not about the shared experience that is power. It's just all of humanity is linked together just because humanity is, right? All humanity has value because all humanity just is part of nature. All nature has value because it exists. We have value because we exist. So the realm of our own individual mind is going to be really focusing on the camaraderie, the energy that's built in between groups that have a shared experience. And we're going to be really focusing on that, communicating with people in that realm. But it's going to be important that we don't completely just center ourselves there, because this is still saying no matter what, all life matters, right? Because we exist. It's just and that's, the degree that Uranus is at is the Red Cross nurse, the compassionate linking of all humans. The Red Cross nurse treats everybody regardless of what their position is in the war, the battle, the situation. That is the path of our collective awakening, and it's not an easy path. It's revolutionary, right? It's Uranus. It is disruptive. It is fast, and it's immediate. It's outside time and space. We're talking about the third eye of the collective opening. So the other thing too is that Black Moon Lilith is conjunct at the same time. So it's also going to be pulling us towards this in terms of survival, instinct, preservation. That is really important to remember, because this is making this a lot stronger from a place that is about survival, that we don't think about, like actual instinct. And so there's going to be some sort of pull to, in some ways, our communication, our short-term communication, the way that we conceive of things, the ideas that we share, is really going to be between and focused on those that are our comrades, right? The people we have shared experience with and what that feels like. But it's important that we also acknowledge how important all of it like existing on Earth is valuable because we exist on Earth. And this is the path to the awakening for the collective. And, you know, Uranus is retrograde, so it's going to come back over here at some point. And then we'll be working with it very actively, right? There'll be more like change out there in the world. Right now, this is like change within us. And it's really pulling us into like to acknowledge this for the sake of our survival. I think it's going to be really interesting, and we got to find the middle, especially because this will be very strong. So we do want to acknowledge and at least give attention to the fact that the communion and the strength of it comes through these shared experiences, and that's going to be something we're going to have to acknowledge when we're talking about symbolism in general. So from here on that's not even exact yet. Yeah, here we go. The 7th, it's exact. Look at that too. Mars is going to start making its connections to Pluto, is going to start making connections to the nodes, and we're going to have the 3rd quarter square on the 9th, which is a crisis in consciousness. Okay, so we have the sun in Libra. It's going to be squaring the moon here in Cancer. Boy, emotionally, this is going to be one of those times where we are going to have to deal with the aspects of our society that create imbalance and exile them, right? We're going to have to. 2 men under arrest. That is the Sabian symbol for 18 degrees of Libra. Square the moon at 18 degrees Cancer, which is just like, I'm just trying to deal with the shit right in front of me and emotionally wanting to feel safe. This is going to be, man, what a crisis indeed. At the same time, Mars is now going to square Pluto, which is now direct. And so, man, I mean, again, the inner work, even if we're doing the inner work, the warrior within, you know, like really going through and acknowledging all of the ways that we can create from within and doing that work within, it's still going to be challenged by Pluto, which is now direct, which is just like, all right, it's time to call it. Like, here's your awards. You've done a great job. Bye-bye, right? That's where Pluto's going to go direct. It's been retrograded this degree for weeks and weeks and weeks, and is now moving forward. And, you know, the cleanup crew is now going to be like, well, I don't care what you're trying to create. I'm here to like clean this up. And with the sun at this degree, about 2 men under arrest, squaring the, we're just not going to be emotionally, we're just going to not want to deal with it. Right? We're going to be like, I'm just trying to deal with what's right in front of me right now. I'm just trying to deal with my family. I'm just trying to deal with like staying sane. And then this aspect it'll be in the front of our attention, you know, and it's the inevitable result of these aspects that just can't balance themselves out with a just society, and they need to be taken away some way. And that can also be a reflection about what's happening within us as well. But just keep in mind, these are the symbols and these are how they're interacting with each other. So this is on the 9th. So this is going to really challenge our, like I said, crisis in consciousness. And it's really going to challenge that symbolism that we acknowledged with the full moon and what it meant. And so it's going to be really put to the test at this point. So from here, this is the 3rd quarter square. So now we're going into the last quarter. So the moon is getting darker. It's going from Cancer and it's going to be going into Leo. So definitely wanting to express ourselves about things that are happening. And Venus is going to trine, you can see here, trine Uranus with Black Moon Lilith in conjunction. This is going to be really, I think that we're really going to see the connection and the value of doing our own work and being able to live within duality but not be of duality, you know, live in the world but not of it. That's, you know, we're going to really value that. That's going to be something that comes up in our material reality, and it's going to absolutely be very foundationally supporting and connected to where Uranus is, which is the compassionate linking of all humanity, and that is the path of the awakening. So, but the best way to do that is when we value the ability to individually, Yeah, Venus in Virgo, she's just really going to step up her game. And she's, remember, Virgo is like the Vestal Virgins. The asteroid Vesta is the goddess of the Vestal Virgins. They committed themselves to not engage in a domestic life at all in order to maintain the fire of the community. And so Venus and the women are going to just like, and the feminine, the sacred feminine is going to really step up and um, start to really pull it together. And I think this is very important in the healing process as well. And this is definitely like a healing process in Virgo, but it's more about getting meticulous and organized about it and starting to get in a routine and not just, it's not just because you want to do it, you actually have to do these things. And it's going to be about it's going to be about taking these symbols and giving them new meaning. And part of that is going to be we have to understand the actual inner workings of our psyche, of our bodies, right? And it's going to be very real with Venus, like in a very material way, and something that we actually experience on a sense level as well. Is really going to help this compassionate linking, because it's not an easy ride with Uranus, is it? There's no emotions here. It is just pure gnosis at this point. So I think this is going to be nice because from here, we just had the square, and I think this is really going to be like a soothing thing, or at least showing us a way around this crisis. From here, the sun is going to start squaring Jupiter, right? And you can see at this last week, all of the aspects become so much more plentiful. Mars is going to come into a sextile with the North Node, meaning it's going to trine the South Node. And then we get to come into Jupiter finally sextiling Neptune, which I talked about earlier. This is really going to support us, especially if we're willing to trust that at the end of all of this, we're still on the ascension timeline. No matter what happens, we're still going to get there. If we can trust that and we can feel that and we can like really melt into that, Neptune and Pisces, it is going to give us the ability to step up into some responsibility when we might not feel ready. And in Jupiter's case, is not really interested in the details, but we're going to have to. And this is going to really help that process. So we have Venus trining Uranus, and then Jupiter sextile Neptune after this third quarter square. It's going to be, we're going to need that energy to pull it together. After that is when the sun is going to oppose Mars at this point, okay? Mercury is going to station retrograde at this point. The moon is going to meet Venus in Virgo. This is really nice because it is getting darker. The moon is getting darker, and so it's going to remind us why we're doing what we're doing and giving us at least a personal and intuitive experience of it. Even if we can't see things, we'll at least feel them with the moon coming to Venus. It'll be in our bodies. So check in with yourself. And now you see this because the sun is going to oppose Mars, and the sun is just like, I am focused on justice. I am focused on the balance. I am focused on these scales being balanced, and I will transfigure and reconstruct things with my mind and my ability to create symmetry. I will reconstruct this so it is balanced, okay? This is what the sun is drawing our attention towards. And so now it's going to be in opposition with Mars, it's just like, I just need to work on myself. I just want to work on myself. And it's not that we can't work on ourselves, but just remember why we're working on ourselves, right? The sun is showing us all the time why we're working on ourselves. So you don't want to be in one end fully or the other. Again, finding the balance point. And the sun is also going to trine the North Node as well. And so that also is going to really support where we're collectively headed, right? This transmission of knowledge where Libra is about justice. And from here, then the sun, look at this, the sun is then going to, right at the very end, when the moon is going to be in opposition to Chiron, the sun is going to also square Pluto. So even our ability to be upbeat and positive and and be focused on fairness and balance, even that's going to be challenged by Pluto. So honestly, and with Mercury stationing retrograde in Scorpio and Pluto now direct, this energy is strong. The Scorpio energy is really strong. And so we're going to have to, it's a necessary destruction. We're going to learn a lot from this situation. So when the next new moon comes around on the 16th, we will be ready for that Arcturian, I guess, a mutation, an upgrade. It's going to give us the ability to actually move ahead a lot faster than we could have otherwise. But we right now have to prepare ourselves for that, which means we can't keep being triggered into fear and lack and victimization based on these deeply entrenched collective symbols that come through, various forms of media, for instance. But it's not just that. Each of us has things that symbolize events that were traumatic and were victimizing at some point, and we're, and collectively too. This is not just individually. We're connecting to the collective trauma as well. That's part of this process. And that became really clear with the moon in Pisces yesterday and the day before. Like, that was a really strong connection. And I talked a lot about that on the live today specifically. So you can always check that out on the Facebook page, which, all that info is going to be in the description box below. So that is the full moon report. There's a lot of information, guys. And of course, it'll be broken down in the dailies on Facebook, and then there'll be a report for the third quarter square and a more specific focus on the last week when that gets closer. But if you're interested in a reading, especially, the Starseed, beginner Starseed package is your natal chart and the Starseed reading, especially for people who are Arcturian. It's good. It's just good to know and get a sense where things are situated and what you came into this life with, because it'll really help guide you and be kind of a way to orient yourself towards where you're going. So that's really such a huge benefit of astrology. So if you want to get ready for the new moon that's coming and get yourself prepared, now's a good time to start booking those readings. So you can go to catalystenergies.net. Like I said, everything is in the description box below, but at the website, that's how you can look at all the services and contact me for a reading. And it's really helpful to spread things around. If you can like the video, subscribe, hit the notification, then when you're getting astrology videos. And yeah, I think that really sums it up. So I hope everybody is doing as well as they can. It is going to be a very full moon, and we are moving into lots of October surprises, just based on looking at this astrology. So take care, everybody. Appreciate you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm going to stop this share and say goodbye.